Another day, another topics. Science and technology. Scientific study. Variables of scientific research. Possible questions. What are the different variables involved in scientific research? Identify the importance of control variables in conducting scientific experiments. Or, why is it crucial to establish control variables in scientific experiments? 3. Discuss the potential consequences of not controlling variables adequately in a scientific study. Ansh. The potential consequences of not controlling variables adequately in a scientific study can lead to biased results, spurious correlations, reduced internal validity, lack of reproducibility, increased measurement error, and unreliable predictions. To ensure the integrity and validity of scientific research, it is essential to carefully control and account for relevant variables to isolate the effects of the variables of interest accurately. 4. Can you provide an example of an independent variable in a scientific study? 5. In a psychology experiment, what would be an appropriate dependent variable? Ansh. An appropriate dependent variable in a psychology experiment refers to the variable that is measured or observed to assess the effects of the independent variables being manipulated. They are reaction time, emotional response, memory performance, behavioral measures and mood, etc. 6. How does the manipulation of an independent variable impact the dependent variable in a research study? Or, how can scientists ensure the accuracy and reliability of their experimental results by manipulating variables effectively? Ansh. The manipulation of an independent variable in a research study impacts the dependent variable by causing changes in its magnitude, frequency, or the nature of its relationship with the independent variable. Researchers manipulate the independent variable to create different experimental conditions and investigate whether these changes in the independent variable result in corresponding changes in the dependent variable. The relationship between the two variables is based on the assumption of cause and effect. 7. Imagine you are conducting research on the effects of caffeine on reaction times. How would you control for potential confounding variables in your study? 8. Some variables should be controlled while using. Why? Ansh. When conducting experiments or studies, it is often necessary to control certain variables to ensure accurate and reliable results. Variables that should be controlled are referred to as controlled variables or constants. By keeping these variables constant, researchers can isolate the effects of other variables they are specifically interested in studying. This helps eliminate potential confounding factors and allows for a clearer understanding of the relationship between variables. 9. Karma uses few pieces of wire to connect lights on a dry cell. He wanted to know how the size of the wire used affected the life of the dry cell. Separate the independent variable, dependent variable and control variable in the test. Ansh. In Karma's experiment, he is investigating the effect of wire size on the life of a dry cell. Here's the variables. Independent variable, size of the wire used to connect the lights. Karma intentionally changes the wire size to test different sizes. Dependent variable, Life of the dry cell. This is what Karma measures and observes as a result of changing the wire size. Control variables. This experiment includes the type of dry cell, same brand, model, and capacity, the number and type of lights, and the environmental conditions, constant temperature, humidity, etc. as the control variables. By carefully controlling these variables, Karma can determine how the size of the wire affects the life of the dry cell. 10. Subodh wanted to find out how the color of an object determines its ability to hold heat. For that, he took 4 conical flasks and put black enamel on the first, white enamel on the second, green enamel on the third and red enamel on the fourth. Then fill each flask with water and put them in the sun so that their mouths become corked. After some time, he measured the water temperature of each flask with the help of a thermometer and recorded it. Distinguish independent and dependent variables in this use of Subodh. 2. Also write clearly which variable to be controlled. Ansh. In Subodh's experiment, he is investigating how the color of an object affects its ability to hold heat. Here's the variables. Independent variable, color of the enamel on the conical flasks. Subodh applies different colors, black, white, green, and red, to each flask to observe their impact on heat absorption. Dependent variable, water temperature inside each flask. Subodh measures and records the temperature of the water to determine how the color of the flask influences its ability to hold heat. Variable to be controlled. To ensure accurate results, Subodh needs to control certain variables. These include the type and size of the conical flasks, the volume of water in each flask, the sun exposure for all flasks, and the duration of sun exposure. By controlling these variables, Subodh can attribute any observed changes in water temperature to the color of the flask. By carefully controlling these variables, Subodh can draw conclusions about how the color of an object impacts its heat absorption capabilities. Thanks for watching.